Hello and welcome to the weekly Roundup by blockchaingamer.biz. Check out our website, blockchaingamer.biz. Find us on Twitter at BCGBiz, and you can connect with us on LinkedIn at blockchaingamer. Today is Friday, the 29th of September. I am your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hello, John.
Hello. I see you are celebrating the fifth demo from Angry Dynamite Labs with your Angry Dynamite Labs hat. So that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good synchronization. I've not played it yet. I have to dive in and be getting my angry dinosaurs building.
Have you got NFTs?
Yeah.
Good. You have to let us know then. Update next week on how you're getting on.
Yes.
So many games. Time to play it.
So many games at the moment. Yeah. Gracious.
Right. Good. So there's quite a lot, actually, of little news from this week, and I don't really know which one stands out the most. We have had just the news launching yesterday of Peter Molyneux, Studio 22 Cans launching there. Quite an old, it's been in the making for a while, hasn't it? Legacy.
Yeah.
Like a business property sim, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very sort of, to be fair, sort of Peter Molyneux, he's sort of a very well-known UK developer, has been making games since the 90s, even maybe a bit before then. And he's sort of always he ran a company called Bullfrog, got bought by EA, and then he sort of created his own company, Lionhead, and then so this is like his third company. And he's always sort of come at games with that sort of, they used to call them God games, and that was very much, he sort of was characterized as sort of popularizing that genre, where you sort of had, you were sort of in a godlike mode over a world, and you were sort of controlling stuff, and obviously that's different ways you can play that. So he's sort of been thinking about these things for a long time, and then sort of more recently he's done sort of more like business sim things. So he did this one called The Movies. It wasn't massively successful, but it was a movie making sort of simulator where you sort of had to build things, like build a sort of a set, like a movie set studio sort of thing, and then you had to make films, and that's the way his brain's been working actually fairly recently. So as you say, Legacy is a game that supposedly, I think about in 2017, and of sort of blockchain was sort of before blockchain games were sort of kicking off. So I don't think blockchain would have been part of that, and that's not really how Peter Molyneux thinks. I don't think he's not like a super techie guy actually. But eventually, this sort of game has arisen as a blockchain game, and it was sort of interesting. I don't know if it's famous or infamous that they did this land sale, and they did like $50 million, like just straight away. They were selling land, and they were doing it on Gala Games, who we've mentioned many times before, who were sort of very hot at the time, but have since sort of fallen on harder times, I suppose, as the two co-founders are suing each other. So I did actually wonder, because I know Peter a bit, if that game was sort of happening. I did actually try and meet up with him last year, but it didn't happen. So it's sort of interesting that suddenly this email has arisen saying game's going live on the 26th of October, which is not really how blockchain games traditionally sort of work. Blockchain games, as we know, are sort of, we're doing a closed alpha and an open alpha and a community beta, and they go through many stages, and sort of you never get an email saying we're going live next month, which is what they're doing. So we will see. I wouldn't say I'm sort of excited, because, but I'm interested, I would say. So it's sort of, he always makes interesting games. I guess Peter has a bit of a reputation for over-egging, his games. He often talks very conceptually about his process of thinking, of how he came up with the game, and then often, as with many things in life, the actuality doesn't quite reflect. What he was thinking of. So he's got quite a lot of criticism for that.
Of sort of, you just mentioned it there in passing, that these NFTs were worth an awful lot and other nods. There's been this news, obviously, this week. I know you love commenting on these sort of news. NFTs are worthless. They were this big fad, and now they're dead and whatnot. Just give us a quick comment on that, John, on the 1 minute.
I mean, it's... without boring everyone who I've ever met, I've always said, basically, not with NFTs, with crypto, like 99% of crypto, no matter what it is going to go to zero. That's just there's too much out there, and the concept's brilliant, I believe, and is going to stay. But if anyone can create a blockchain, a cryptocurrency, a NFT. We can do it. We've done it. We've made NFTs. They're not valuable because we made them. They will have value, but they'll only have value as sort of famous people make them. But a lot of NFTs or crypto that famous people make won't work either. So there'll be this we're going through this weird process where basically most of crypto is going to zero. That's a process, as a market forces process. And over time, the stuff that really people care about, which clearly we know in the NFT world are some of these very expensive art assets, and probably in the PFP world more some of the Bored Ape crypto punks will never go to zero, I don't think now. So we're going through this process, and of course it's a bit like an ink blot sort of test that, depending on what side of the NFT debate you're on, in factual terms, the fact that whatever they said 95 or 97% of NFTs are worthless is absolutely the case, but that's sort of been the case for a year. There's no particular news thing that has happened that there's no event that has made NFTs more worthless this month than they were last month.
It's not really news, not really breaking news.
No, and it's sort of fun actually, without going into enormous detail, but which I probably will do. There's this lady Molly White who really hates blockchain. She writes this kind of interesting blog called Web3 is going just great or something, which is basically anytime anything goes wrong in crypto, she writes like a massive article about it and all the hacks and scams. And she really hates blockchain. I mean, she's one of these sort of true anti-believers. She hates it so much she loves it, I think. And she was really funny actually, because she got really angry about this report. The report actually came from a gambling website who were just using blockchain data, and they wrote up this thing. And then there was also an article in the Rolling Stone that did very, very well. And it's just the Guardian has written out. Everyone who goes through processes of slamming crypto have written this thing up. So even though there's nothing new, and even though it came from like a gambling website just to get links back to their website, which has worked really well, she got very angry about it, and she was sort of saying, but this is you shouldn't be linking back to this website. They're awful. The data's awful. I'm very angry, even though NFTs aren't worth anything. So it's sort of funny how people just find their own angle on it. And obviously, my angle is fake news in the sense that there's no news there. And can I be bothered to write an article saying this is wrong and actually twist it? The 5% of NFTs that are worth something, and some of those are still worth. I can't remember what a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk is still worth. It's still worth, I think, $60,000, $80,000 from a bit of, it's a digital JPEG, as everyone says, but it's on a blockchain, and people have corralled around to create those things and give them value. It's much more interesting.
And maybe that's more remarkable, and that's more of that's a better news story actually. That there is value in some of this still, and there is. Yeah. Indefinite value probably in some of these NFTs that are building up more utility around them, and so
and it's not. I say not just NFTs. I mean, going into the wider thing, obviously, Bitcoin. What do you think about Bitcoin? The price hasn't gone to zero. The price is 2/3 of what it was, a third of what it was. Sorry, but with all this sort of tedious stuff about ETFs and these sort of financial instruments that a lot of American fintech companies want to create. I mean, there's sort of Bitcoin ones at the moment, but not a Bitcoin spot. I don't go into details. The Ethereum ones are coming as well. So actually, Ethereum futures ETF is going live, I think, next week. And none of these things are massive news, but they're all sort of part of the fact that these very weird digital assets that sit on blockchains are slowly being integrated into real, financial, markets who. Yeah. Also have weird assets like gold, and also sell things like oil, and also sell things like the US dollar, and all these. I focus on this stuff quite a lot, and I wouldn't say even scratch the surface to understand how the financial system works, and none of us do.
And from the outside, I mean, if you're not actually very interested in the industry, but you like to just sort of slag it off, then you're not going to look sort of very deeply into the project in it, are you? But if you do, you find that loads of these builders are actually building in the quiet. They're not releasing everything, not marketing every little step they're doing, but they are progressing. They are.
And I think you're exactly right. It's sort of it's a sort of thing that doesn't. I mean. I was going to go political and talk about the Ukrainian offensive, but maybe I won't do that. But it's sort of it's sort of these margin this sort of concept of marginal revolution. Every day, what's the direct? It doesn't matter that there's a big news story, but every day is the thing going forward. And I think just with crypto, top of my head again, PayPal created its own stablecoin. Is that massive in and of itself? Will that work? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it won't work. But the fact that one of the biggest fiat payment systems has created its own stable coins. It thinks stable coins are going to be interesting for maybe not, maybe not our grandparents are going to be sending tether to each other, but maybe in the back end when they do something, maybe banks will be having their own stable coins and sending stuff around. I mean, that's always So I just kind of think it's people for like politics, people take a
There you
side.
go.
And
That's John's comment on it.
That's my
without
comment.
getting
Waffle.
political. Right.
Yep.
Let's move on. We got Play Nation.
Quickly.
Say that again.
Let's move on quickly.
Let's move on. Exactly. I have the right to be a little bit rude, don't I, to you? I wouldn't be to anybody else.
Fine, no.
Right. Play Nation are they're kind of a prime example of this, really, in having developed this tech, this bridge of NFTs that are their NFTs that are on the Cardano chain, but they have now made them compatible in the Sandbox, so you can basically unlock like a voxel twin. It's called Vox Clay, so it's not it's an NFT as far as I know, but it's sort of you're unlocking basically getting access to this experience in the Sandbox, which is on the Polygon chain. Yeah. So it's basically bridging those NFTs that still remain on the Cardano.
Well, I think they're creating, because the whole point of the clay thing is they look like they're made of clay, and then they're basically taking those across to Sandbox, which obviously they're little block things. So they may be the NFT, the Cardano NFT stays on Cardano, but I think they may issue like a version of that, which may be an NFT, maybe not an NFT on Polygon. I assume that's what they're doing. But again, I mean, is that a new story? Not really, but it plays into this thing where you are seeing lots of sort of cross-chain stuff. I mean, again, another minor thing. The game, mobile game Upland, which has been out for donkey's years. It's a mobile game through the app stores. One of the first games to do that with proper assets. That back end runs on EOS. A bit of an old blockchain now. But now they're announcing they're sort of creating some more of their currency called Sparks on EOS, and also then creating a whole bunch of those assets. It's a 1 to 1,000 ratio of these new tokens called Sparklets on Ethereum. So basically, you're going to have a million Sparks on EOS and a billion Sparklets on Ethereum, and then a bridge between them, so people can start moving stuff in and out. And that's the first time they've sort of had a more open economy. You have to go through KYC, and there's a 48-hour cooldown period when you're moving stuff around, because they're obviously worried about getting hacked and stuff like that. But it is interesting. Again, that's a fairly small game, sort of 30,000 DAUs. But we're seeing lots of games now, having the ability to connect to other blockchains, and obviously there's some games that are going multi-chain, and people are particularly looking at L2s on Ethereum, so having assets on Ethereum mainnet, but then having sort of maybe tokens, or maybe doing gameplay on Arbitrum or Base or any of these other sort of things, which are actually again small little trends, but a lot of those L2s, Arbitrum, Optimism, they've got quite a lot of users on them now. There was I think a report came out that there was more transactions on, can't remember which one it was, one of the L2s than there were on Ethereum, which is sort of what you want, because that's the point of having L2s is to take transactions off Ethereum, because they're much expensive. But so all these little things are moving forward. The infrastructure is moving forward all the time, and I think that's a sort of good examples of products. And I guess we as a game website are very focused really on products and what they're doing, and I would think if not a majority, a large number of games are looking at sort of multi-chain sort of strategies now, because you can hide or increasingly hide a lot of the blockchain stuff, the wallet, all that stuff. You can hide that away from users.
Some news have come up from Animaker Brands. Pretty much on a weekly basis, we get some new announcements from them. They're collaborating with Gravitas Labs and VR46 Metaverse, which is Valentino Rossi's, the MotoGP world champion. Yeah. They are collaborating, making Web3 experiences, and the first one they're making is a motorsport metaverse, Veilverse, that's coming to the Sandbox.
Yeah, a lot with the Sandbox, yeah. And also there was... what they call Arva Gotche are doing a Sandbox tie-in as well with their Gotchiverse characters. So still, we still actually, that's one of the sort of big things we hope for the end of the year. I mean, it's getting close to the end of the year now, but Sandbox have said that their land stuff is going live this year. I mean, maybe it won't, who knows? But the Sandbox is still, as you say, Sandbox and Animoca every week are sort of announcing new stuff, and Sandbox just has enormous amounts of things going on there. It's sort of hard to judge quite what the audience is for that sort of stuff at the moment. But they are very busy, and obviously they're very brand focused. 400 brands are operating there now. Again, I don't think it'll be something where they just put it live and billions of people will pile in. I think it will take a bit of time to get going. But you know, they are taking their time to build out at the level that they want to, and I don't think that they're not rushing stuff for the sake of it. So.
Good. And then they also had this announcement just today about collaborating with Drecom, Japan, Animaker Brands Japan, on this Eternal Crypt wizardry game. But I need to read up a little bit more. Right, we got Hunters. They have launched some new features, and one of them that you have already, I think, tried is building a clan. Is that right?
Well, I thought you joined.
I joined it, didn't I? I think I joined your clan.
Yeah, my clan, two people.
Played it enough to have sort of.
Yeah, so Hunters building. Yeah, so that they've put in like a set of missions for sort of new players to sort of gain more assets in the game and sort of get a feel of sort of what they should be doing in the game. And then they've also put in daily missions, which are actually, as I played it more, are actually for sort of more advanced players. So basically, with Hunters, it's sort of interesting. They have these common Hunters, which are basically given away. So they're free. They basically, if you just play the game, if you just start off and play the game, you're basically, I think you play 7 days or something, you get a free Hunter, which is an NFT on the Polygon blockchain, but it's sort of worthless because anyone can get one. And there's a whole loop around. You play the game, you earn these BGEM utility tokens, you then earn shards, and you can level up your character. But you can't really earn very much out of that loop. And then there's the paid NFTs, which I think have a floor price of about $20, maybe $25. And if you do that, you just sort of on an accelerated curve. You're doing the same thing, but you're sort of earning 100 times more. And so some of these daily missions are actually, they're not valuable, but you're actually kind of starting to, with the paid NFTs, you're starting to earn some of these in-game assets. Again, it's not a pay-to-earn game. You get these assets, but there's you sort of spend the BGM to open these chests to get more assets, which is sort of useful. So it's all very focused around these NFT characters. There's 40 different characters. They all have different sort of attributes in terms of how they sort of fight, and there's more modes coming out. And still quite a lot of stuff for them to come out. So clans are there, but there's nothing in the clans at the moment. So there's no sort of clan activities, which is a key thing, obviously, for long-term retention. I think they're doing some co-ops. They're doing some co-op modes, friend modes as well, which are obviously sort of, again, good for social. So, yeah. And again, I mean, without boring everyone, this is sort of, it's not a massive news headline, but it's sort of a good project, and it's just building out the things you'd expect a game to have. The fact that it's blockchain is neither here nor there. So I think there's dozens and dozens of games. So Zynga's Sugartown just sort of went, I guess, closed beta sort of live this week with their NFTs and their staking stuff. So we're starting to understand a bit more about how that works. And there's just, what do we say, Star Atlas's Sage Labs have started playing that. Very sort of clunky UI for an on-chain game, but that's using their assets that have been out for a while. So just a lot of these games are just moving forward, building stuff, releasing stuff. A bit like crypto, probably 99% of them won't go anywhere. But the ones that have, find the best community or whatever way they market themselves, I think we're going to start to see the sort of power of blockchain in the sense that these people who are playing these games are very committed to those games and sort of start playing those games to the exclusion of sort of games that don't have blockchain assets because they're getting rewarded in some way.
Yeah. We should mention that we've got a new title that's moved into our most anticipated blockchain games list, which is Phantom Galaxies, because Ret League moved out. It went live. So
yep.
that's
Phantom Galaxies is out 2nd of November, I think.
Yes, on
it's,
Epic.
Open
Coming
beta.
to Epic
and Steam.
Web 2 version on Steam as well, isn't it?
So that's a space-based sort of mech shooter from Blowfish Studios, owned by Animoca. So and that's been in development for a good 2 years, over 2 years.
Yeah.
So lots going on.
Cool. Yeah, loads and loads of little news. Right, okay. I think we're going to wrap up for this week, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.